I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher. Honest.
Forceful.
Trusting.
Brilliant.
Strong.
And adventurous.
And this is Crusher Convo.
Welcome to Crusher Convo, where we are crushing the conversation one episode at a time. And today is the episode to end all episodes, as I return to talk about my love and the tragedy of Sub Rosa. And tonight in the hot seat is not only a card-carrying nerd, but a founding member, in my opinion, Dani from comics and basically everything. So,
hello.
Hello. I brought my own little candle, I guess we could say. Here we go. There's Ronan. Ronan's just chilling over here.
Well, I've got my knockoff Ronan and a backup. So I'm ready to go. I feel his presence already.
He's behind you.
And he's getting it because the green is everywhere.
He's everywhere. Yeah, he wants to make sure we do this right, I guess. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Now, Dani, I do have a question for you. Like I said, you're a car-carrying member. You love everything nerdy. So what is about Star Trek that you love so much?
It's probably my first nerdy love. Before, I became a non-denominational nerd. I would have to say that. I think it's really hard to say. I watched it with my dad and my brother growing up. And that's kind of what we did as a family. We watched The Next Generation every weekend. And it was just kind of a big deal for us. I really liked the science. The show, I think, really contributed to my curiosity, asking questions, wanting to know why and how things work. And Star Trek always explained that. They always used real science and they always explained it. And there was always a resolution. There was always, here's a problem. We fix it. Everyone goes home happy. And the thing that they're famous for, the standalone episodes, it kept you interested. And there was always so much. And I wanted to be Counselor Deanna Troi. I wanted to look like Marina Sirtis. My whole life, I wanted to look like Marina Sirtis. She's just one of the most beautiful women on the planet. She's got those really big eyelids, deep set eyes, just beautiful woman. Just loved her to death. And, had a big crush on Riker. So
what was that your love, your love of cosmetology is what kicked in to
Absolutely. So Yeoman Janice, I can't remember her last name, on the original trilogy, she had that beehive. That fascinated me. It fascinated me, like, how did they get her hair to do that? I discovered it and won a contest in beauty school doing Ensign or Yeoman Janet's beehive with the basket weave. I totally did that. Beverly and Deanna's makeup was always so perfectly blended and beautiful. That smudged eyeliner, that classic 80s smudged eyeliner.
Right.
It just fascinated me. So and Deanna always had perfect hair. So, I think that probably did have a lot of contributing factors.
Season 7 makeup, though. I mean, Beverly it was good.
Yeah.
Liked it. And Deanna, they looked great. Michael Westmore. And that was just it. And of course Marina was still using the wigs, of course, but it was finally Gates's own hair and the way they did it and the color and everything. I was like, I think she looks so good. She looks good in all the seasons.
She does. She's very elegant features, good skin.
Exactly. Bone structure. Yeah. But there's something about season 7 where they just really were like, let's do it. Let's just do the smoky eye and do her hair all pretty. And always
better budget.
Love it. Better. Probably they were like,
they can afford They could afford actually specifically beauty makeup artists, because I'm telling you, most special effects artists, like special effects artists, hate doing beauty makeup. Like they hate it.
Well, do you know that Michael Westmore has like that whole family lineage of makeup artists, right? Yeah.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think he said he did Betty Davis's makeup. That was one of his first jobs or something.
Really?
So do that, I could do anything.
Well, a friend of mine is a big special effects guy, but he's all, X-Men, Star Wars, the stuff he's worked on. And I would have absolute laughing fits hearing him complain about beauty makeup and how strip lashes are the bane of his existence. I can't pick up a strip lash now without thinking about it. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
He hates it.
Poor thing. He's like PTSD for now. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in with a little bit of fun facts of this episode. So here, of course, is Sub Rosa, which formerly known as Passions. That was the title when they were originally writing this. And we got some big names here. A story by Jerry Taylor, teleplay by Brandon Braga, based upon material by Gianna F. Gallo, and of course, directed by Jonathan Frakes. And I think knowing that they were all involved, you're like, this is going to be a great episode. And it either went two ways. Either it's the joke of all Star Trek, or it's, oh my gosh, addiction, abuse, and everything going happening. What love story are they talking about? And I'm that's my area over here.
Well, I'm always on the end of like, look, Nana lived to be over 100 years old. She was happy. She was happy. She was fulfilled. She lived to be over 100. That sounds fine to me. Like it would have been fine.
Here's the thing. I think this was my theory, because typically, from what I remember in Star Trek, you could live to like 130 or something, because they even showed McCoy in that first episode of TNG as like 137. Like that's normal now. The fact she died at 100, I think Ronan killed her. I think she died. I think he killed her. Just feeding off her energy, and she died sooner than she should have.
Still a long life. She died happy.
And you know what? We'll get to that very end thing that Beverly says. I love that episode up until that very end. I'm like, oh, but we'll get to that part. But I am going to first do. We got our little Nemechek it out here with Larry Nemechek's book, and I have a snippet here of him talking about the episode, and there's a lot of information here, so please bear with me. So it says, as one of the most atypical TNG episodes ever, this Leslie mounted romance novel in space, quote unquote, was named the favorite of the year by the slightly biased story writer Jerry Taylor, a addict of a number of trashy genres, such as gothic romances and historical novels.
How dare they refer to Anne Rice as trashy romance novels? It's erotica.
Actress McFadden, who called it a highlight of her own season, won kudos for all out performances. The lovemaking without a partner, this is not easy stuff to do, Taylor said, and she committed herself to it completely. Yes, she did. Taylor said that the story and its roots in the fan Gianna Gallo's year-old spec script was a nod to The Innocents, the film version of Henry James' Turn of the Screw, and Braga's all-time favorite, and not the Scottish succubus lasher of Anne Rice's The Witching Hour.
Okay, it was all The Witching Hour. It was all The Witching Hour.
Okay, he just wrote The Witching Hour. I'm just reading the book. Okay, everyone.
Well, listen. They're trying to. Okay, so what happened is Anne Rice's estate actually was like, hello.
I heard about this.
Yeah, they were like, that you totally ripped. You should have credited us. Should have credited Anne Rice. Story by Anne Rice, inspired by or something, because it's
something added to it.
It's almost identical, especially like the flowers all in Nana's burgage when
Uh-huh.
Beverly comes in,
Yeah.
when she's in bed sleeping and the blankets come off and she starts to feel that
Yeah.
that happens to Rowan. I've read Witching Hour 3 times. I know this book by heart.
This is why
And
you're here. You're my expert for this book. So,
so
because I know nothing.
and there have been times when Brandon Braga's been and Jerry Taylor both been like, okay, so yeah, it was a hot book at the time, so we ripped it off. But yeah, it's a total ripoff of The Witching Hour, and it's funny that they mention Turning of the Screw and other books because they're trying to mitigate the fact that they really did rip off the entire story and put a little Scottish twist on it.
Yeah, exactly. Which was such a weird thing of,
Oh,
let's go to a planet 200 light years away and just rebuild Scotland,
but actually Lasher and the Descendants were Scottish too.
So it was just like a combination of all these in one, right? Isn't it? Took little bits and just
no, all of
together.
Yeah, it's all like their version. It's the Witching Hour, Star Trek's version.
Star Trek, yes. The 24th century version.
Right.
But here's the thing. So like I say a million times, I just started watching Star Trek. And I remember when I was watching TNG for the first time, and I was like, I love Beverly Crusher. And I was going through, and it took me only 2.5 weeks to binge the show. Like I was just in it to win it and watched the entire season. But I was warned about Sub Rosa. Everyone was all like, yeah, it's a little much. It's kind of cringy. Like that was always their thing, was like, it's cringe. It's not great. And I'm like, okay. And this episode only came, like, it was like 6 episodes after Attached, which was a very big episode for Beverly and Picard. So I was like, all right, so I'm keeping an open mind. And when I get to it though, I see the whole romance novel, of falling in love with your captor kind of story. But I am, and I've mentioned this before, I am a SA survivor. Okay. So I kind of saw it a little differently, and maybe because I was an adult and I saw it for the first time. I know as children, if you're watching it, you see the erotic of it all. You're not thinking, oh, she's being manipulated and sexually abused right now.
Yes.
So, which, thank goodness, the children did not think that. But as adults, as they grew up, that's just been imprinted in their brain this whole time. So they're just cracking jokes and stuff. Now, I'm 30 years late to the party. Y'all could do your jokes. Y'all have your cult love for it. I'm for it, right? And I'll even crack a couple of jokes here and there. Yeah, exactly. I'll even crack a couple of here and there, like we were doing with the whole candle thing on Twitter.
Yeah.
But what I really, really love about the episode is Larry wasn't wrong. Like Gates went all out.
Yeah.
In her scenes, even though she opened the script, it was like, what the fuck is this? she went for it. She was all like, my whole family was in love with the candle. Awesome. But she took it in a different direction. And what I found interesting was what I found in the script. And so when I was reading the script and stuff like that, I realized, oh, this is, as much as they were going for that dark romance novel kind of vibe, they were putting in about those manipulations, the sexual abuse, the addiction, all that stuff. So the first one I'm going to actually show here is, this was one part that I thought was important. And it says right here that this is the scene you were just mentioning, right? So she goes into her Nana's house and there's flowers everywhere. She sees, you think there's a ghost because things are moving and she hears voices. It says she pulls a comm badge out of her pocket, but before she can activate it, her coat falls from off her shoulders as if it was taken off. She takes in a breath, feeling a rush of sensation and emotion. Her eyes lose focus momentarily as though she has just been given some kind of narcotic. And then it says down here, her eyes flutter and she breathes heavily again, drawn deep into the narcotic state. The comm badge falls from her hand onto the floor like someone coming out of a deep sleep. She tries to force her eyes open. And you see that. in the scene, right? You
Yeah,
see her
you do.
fighting off this, like, and then she even said, she's like, what is wrong with me? And she even kept saying, stop it. That's what got me, though. She was saying no, and he kept forcing it on her. And that's where that sexual abuse really gets like, ooh, this is a really rough scene.
Well, and you notice when she gets back onto the Enterprise, because she's like, well, the candle's on the ship. I'll have to go there. And he's like, okay, hurry. So she gets up there and she lights it, and she's like fidgeting and anxious because he gave her this taste, and now she's kind of fiending for it. She's got a little bit of a withdrawal. He has gotten her addicted. The way I'm looking at it is he is finding ways, because he's this why can't I say the word, this something being, something energy being.
Oh, he's anaphasic energy.
That's it. Okay, so he's using this anaphasic energy to manipulate her serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin levels in her brain, and doing anything that boosts your serotonin and dopamine, you will become addicted to, and you will have some sort of withdrawal. When you withdraw from serotonin, you get something that's called brain shakes, where I describe it as like brain feels fuzzy, like there's like this kind of buzz, like things don't feel like they're lining up quite thing.
Right.
And it does make you feel kind of anxious. So what he's done is he's literally created an addiction for her, but it's her own serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and he's doing that by manipulating her with these sexual charges, this sexual energy.
He's using love as a manipulation, like, well, I love you, and this
exactly. None of us have heard that before.
No, what is that?
Right. No. So he's quite literally using sex to create an addiction and to manipulate and use her.
Oh, and the thing is, and this is why it was so important, because of it being after Attached. She just turned down Picard, right? So she's already not in the greatest mental state when it comes to, like, she's probably feeling lonely, but she feels like, she did, in my opinion, she did make the right decision to leave because she felt he wasn't ready. But that still doesn't mean that she was okay with the decision. So she was in a very vulnerable state and easy to be manipulated. Now, I know a lot of people did put down the character of saying, well, it's Beverly, she's a doctor, like, how could she be easily, manipulated by this alien? I was like, there's many doctors that get addicted to medication, or like, they're still human, like, they're not perfect.
Harley Quinn, I've got a whole episode explaining that, how Harley Quinn is a cautionary tale that it can happen to anyone. You can understand the human mind inside and out, but you cannot map the human heart. You just can't.
Oh, exactly.
And knowing yourself on that kind of level, have you ever tried to fight yourself?
Right.
It's not, you don't realize that's what's happening because it's you.
Yeah. And because he was using love as a manipulation, and that's what she wasn't getting from Picard, it was just really easy for him to stake his way in it. Now, in this next slide, for this next part of the script, this is the part where she's rushing in. Quint died. Poor Quint, R.I.P. He was right. There was something going on at that house. But it says, Ronan reaches out for her. She puts her hand onto his. He draws her close. The sight of him is almost hypnotic to Beverly. She seems drawn to him by feelings and forces that she cannot understand or resist. And I like that part because you can kind of, in the script, it's kind of like she's trying to fight it, but she can't, and she doesn't know why. And of course, here's that scene you were just talking about where it says she immediately goes to her desk, quickly sorts through her medical kit, is obsessive, almost maniacal drive. She finds a laser device. Then she quickly moves to the candle on her night table and lights it. She sits at the down on the bed, looks around room unexpectedly. She's obviously on edge, nervous, doesn't know what to do with her hands. After a beat, she gets up, walks around, keeps glancing at the candle. Beverly is like a drug addict in search of her next fix. Like that was literally in the script. And I remember watching it and I was all like, she's an addict. Like she is just like tweaking. That's what I said. I was like, she is so tweaking right now in that scene. You know, and I'm just like, what the heck? And it even says like, you know, she's on edge of the bed. Her hands are trembling. She's trying to hold herself together. And of course, the moment he shows up, she holds him tightly, like holding on for dear life. Just like,
yep.
And that's what addicts go through. And, you know, we even say foodgasm, right? When certain foods feel good, we feel pleasured, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you think of it as a drug. And when she gets her hit, it feels good, guys. She's having that pleasured fix. So that's why I always had an issue when they kept saying, oh, she's having like a sex scene, you know, by herself. When I'm all, is she though? Because he's kind of just feeding off of her energy to survive. This is all about him surviving. He doesn't care about the Howard women. And he's using them and he doesn't care what happens. That's why I think Nana didn't make it when she should have.
You know, it's a really great metaphor for two of my ex-husbands. I mean, it's like perfect.
It's a metaphor for a lot of things, right?
Perfect.
I mean,
it's perfect for the hobosexuals is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And that scene was kind of hard to watch. Like I've had family members who are addicts, right? And to kind of see her really struggling and needing something that she doesn't even understand, but she's like, I have to have it. It was absolutely insane to see this character who was so, you know, like that's why people were saying, I can't believe Beverly would fall for it. She's such a strong character, but she's also just human. Like she's a woman. She's she just wanted love and attention and he was giving it to her, which is why I think the ending was so important. So
loneliness and depression and desperation will lead you down some stupid decisions.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It really will.
Now I'm going to do a clip and I love this scene because this is where I feel like it takes a turn and where that whole she's addicted to Ronan, but her love for Picard is there and it hurts her. So here's the scene in the transporter room.
Beverly, what the hell is this?
I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. I'm leaving Starfleet. Energize.
Belay that order.
Aye, sir.
Beverly, you can't just resign.
I can, and I have. I've decided to stay on Caldos and become a healer like my grandmother. It's a proud Howard tradition, and I've decided to uphold it. Energize. I've resigned my commission, so unless you plan on kidnapping me...
I love the sound.
I love that scene.
I love the sound of the warp engines. I used to play it at night to sleep.
Aww. It's comforting, actually. People actually do those, like, what are they called? Those
ASMR?
Yes.
So there's
just like the warp engines or something like that.
There's lots of YouTube channels that do it. Some even have like scenes, like you can see quarters. Like you can see the quarters, the sleeping quarters.
Yeah.
And they have them for pretty much any Federation ship you can imagine. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Super nerd. Super nerd.
Super nerd. This is, like I said, founding member. Anyway, the one thing that I loved about this scene is she's dropping a Dear John letter in an email. It's like she just says like, "Subspace suspicious, I'm bolting." Like she was trying to take off before he even showed up. It's because she didn't want to do it face to face. You could see that it was really upsetting to her.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want to leave, but she felt like she had to. And that's what
Yeah.
addicts do. Like they give up everything, their career, their family, their friends, all of it for their addiction. And I'm glad Picard, because we always make fun of Picard, like Picard, like, how did he not notice this? Or how did he not notice this? He noticed something here and he's like, what is this? Like, he's like, you can't just resign. Like, what the hell is this? Like, he was just all, what is going on? And kudos to him, but not so much kudos for Troy, who's kind of known something was going on with Beverly. And she's just kind of like, well, I just figured she'll try it on her own.
Yep.
What?
Yep. She totally called it right out the gate. She was
did.
like,
Yeah. She even mentioned
I'm
in
gonna
that
let
scene
little girl do her thing.
Right. And she's all like, now when there's a tragedy that happens, two people might try to find comfort in each other. Like she totally was doing the whole psychological aspect of it. Great. But like you said, homegirl, go do your thing. Like,
yeah,
I don't.
And she's an empath. She can feel what she's feeling. She can feel the conflict. She can feel the emotional charge. She could probably feel the brain shakes from the withdrawal. We don't know.
Yeah.
What we know is she definitely felt enough to know something was going on, and then you just don't see Troy for the rest of the episode.
No. And even with Picard, when they were having that conversation in his ready room, she was just all like, but she has to make her own decisions. Okay, so if Beverly decides to jump off a cliff, you're just like, have fun.
Yeah. Right when you get back.
I didn't understand that weird 180 turn, and maybe they did that so Picard could be the hero, because the guys will have to be the heroes, blah, blah, blah. But
I don't know if it's necessarily they wanted Picard to be the hero. They needed her emotional connection with Picard so that when he got hurt, it would bring her back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I totally, and I love that part, right? And the fact that he did go down, and at first he's just kind of be all like, oh no, I want to meet your friend. He didn't want to push it because he's like, I know something's wrong, but I don't want to like push her too hard because he wasn't sure what was going on. And that was kind of the big thing for me was, especially because this is only 6 episodes after Attached, he was concerned. He was worried. But yeah, I really enjoyed this scene, and her hair was on point. I'm gonna say her makeup is fabulous.
I look, Nana's house. Dagnabbit, why couldn't I say her name again?
Felisa?
Felisa Howard. Felisa Howard's Burgage. That is how I want to live. That is how I've always dreamed to live. That little wooden cabin.
Her house.
Even with the plants hanging, that's my house. I have plants and herbs and stuff hanging to dry. I've got a full of jars of different medicinal herbs and incenses and spices, and I grow my stuff. And I always joke around that I'm going to do this YouTube thing until society falls, and then I'm moving to the woods, and y'all never see or hear from me again.
Can I move in with you?
No, it's just me. My
Can
kids
I be
and
your neighbor?
No neighbors. No, you're missing the point here. I'm going to be the wild witch of the woods. Except for occasionally the random villagers that but
don't go down that road.
Don't go down that crazy
don't
lady.
go down the road. Yeah.
The witch is there. But all her medicinal herbs hanging to dry, her very simple but comfy little cabin, the sound that the floorboards make, like it's all so just so cozy and comforting. Like I want Nana's house. I want Nana's house.
I do want to mention real fast because it just dawned on me when in the very beginning of the episode when Beverly had Deanna walk with her back after the funeral. Deanna's eyes was like so fascinated with this house, right? She's just like, it's so adorable.
Things.
I cracked up when she walks to that plant and she just
she's like
flicks it. And she looks so like a little kid, like, this is so cool. It reminded me of my daughter. You know, we grew up with the crank in the windows, right? That was our thing. And so when we got the electric windows in a car, we're like, this is the coolest thing ever. We're pressing the button and going up and down. When my daughter was about 5, I had to go get like some old rental or something like that. And it had the cranking. And she never seen that before. So she goes in and she's like, this is the coolest thing ever. And she's cranking the windows going up and down. And I was laughing. I was like, oh my gosh, the society now, we're just completely backward. But that's how I thought of Deanna. She was like, this is so cool. Like this plant.
This is a plant. This is a plant.
A wood table.
Oh, a plant.
I thought it was the cutest thing. I really did. I thought it was absolutely adorable.
Well, it's funny because she's like, come with me back to my Nana's house. I got to go through some stuff. You can help me out. And she's like, okay. So she goes there and she picks at the plant and she's like, oh, this is nice. Well, I'm going. Bye. And then takes off like, yeah, I'll just come and say hello to everything and then peace out. You can do all the hard work.
She's like, you don't have to go. And she's all like, I think you should be alone. Okay, thanks. And you're like,
what was the whole point? Just for you to come and pick at my grandma's plant?
And look at a picture of Beverly with her grandma. That was adorable.
How could you even see the color of her eyes? She's like, all the women in your grandma has such brilliant green eyes. Like, how can you see that? And
she has 20/10 vision.
Clearly.
We don't know. Maybe betazoids have this amazing eyesight, just like because like they're empath.
That's why their eyes are all black because they're all pupil.
Exactly. Yep. We solved the mystery. That's it. Ta-da. Close the book. Now, my next scene, though, I do want to mention is when Picard goes after Beverly.
Jean-Luc.
Sorry I startled you. I knocked, but there was no answer.
The door was open. I hope you don't mind.
What do you want?
Well, I'd hoped to meet your new friend, Ronan.
He's not here.
Well, perhaps I could wait if you don't mind. I'm really anxious to meet this remarkable young man who has swept away not just one, but 2 of the Howard women.
Jealousy doesn't suit you, Jean-Luc.
Have you changed the color of your eyes?
I just grew tired of the other color. Don't you think it suits me?
I think that I preferred your eyes the way they were before. I think I preferred you the way you were before, Beverly.
Well, this is the way I am now. And this is my life. I've made my decision and I'm not going to change my mind, so please leave me alone.
Oh, no, there's something wrong here. Now, Beverly, this is more than just an obsessive love affair that has got out of hand. Tell me, why is it that no one has seen this Ronan except you?
I don't think it has the same effect while I'm holding my candle. But yeah, that's better. Yeah, mine's really adorable. It's very cute. I love it.
Where do I find a candle that offers orgasms? Like where's that store?
We're never gonna find it.
He just walks in on her just having a full body orgasm.
Having some pleasure going on.
Yeah, and she's like, oh.
But he interrupted. She didn't even get to the peak.
He's like, oh, excuse me. Like,
excuse me. He's like, I knocked, but there was no answer. Well, duh.
Creepo. You're just standing there watching me get off. Fine.
But of course, that's where I was that scene, which in the script, it actually said that she was supposed to be like on the floor in front of the fire. I'm glad they put her on a chair because that would have been a little weird.
Yeah.
But I think
Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think in this case, with her being pleasured by Ronan's anaphasic energy, it just goes right back to our addiction, right? She is finally getting her fix. She went from a tweaker in her quarters to finally getting her hit. Mm-hmm. And as an atypical addict who denies that there's nothing wrong, right? Yeah. This is my life now. Leave me alone. And she went from fine to rage in 2 seconds. And that's where he at first was trying to approach her like, oh, I'm just here to visit, to know there's something wrong with you, and I'm
Mhm.
not leaving till you give me answers. That's where this scene, like you had mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
was very, very important. And I cut the perfect part of this where Ronan is like, he goes and injures Picard. She goes down, she jumps into action just like she would as a doctor. But she's all like, we can't let him die. And you hear Ronan off screen and he's like, come with me. But
Mhm.
it says she looks up to his face, her expression stricken. She's like an addict taking the first step away from a powerful drug. It's one of the most difficult things she's ever had to do. As she pushes him away and goes to work on Picard, Ronan that's, fearful and angry, looks and resolves and crosses with her, says, I have to go stop them. Ronan steps away and we hear him vanish. As soon as he gone, Beverly suddenly sags as if exhausted. She puts a hand on her forehead, closes her eyes, fights off a wave of nausea. She struggles to open her eyes and focus on the tricorder. And when she does, when we see that her eyes have turned blue again, her normal color, she concentrates on Picard, scans him with her tricorder. And this is what I loved about that scene, is because that, like they said, it was her first step as an addict to step away from her drug and, fight for herself.
Mhm.
She jumped into action because she saw someone that she loved and cared for hurt. And he was hurt because of her decision. Right. And Picard went there to help her and he almost died for it. And I loved that they wrote even in there, like she was fighting off a wave of nausea, which is
Mhm.
what a lot of addicts do when they're going through that withdrawal. Like when they say like people get arrested and they go put in a jail cell and they have to go through those withdrawals, they're vomiting, they're sick, they're just shaking, all that. She was doing that in like 30 seconds, but she was also trying to concentrate on Picard because she had to save him.
Mhm.
And she did Gates did an amazing job. And I know people put down this episode. It's actually the second, people voted this as the second worst episode.
Really?
All of Next Generation. On top of Shades of Grey, which was the season 2 finale.
Mm.
They rate this episode worse than Code of Honor. We got some problems here, people.
It's not that bad of an episode. It's just not very Star Trek for the most part. It's Anne Rice. That's why. Because Jerry Taylor stole this from Anne Rice.
Well, we can't put all the blame to Jerry. There was also Brandon, and then what was it? Gian Gallo. They were all.
It was definitely. Yeah, but Jerry doubles down.
Yeah,
Jerry doubles down on it. No, it's mine. I wrote it.
The thing is though is, yes, it's not a typical Star Trek episode. It's not sci-fi in the least. Mm-hmm. But when you really look at the story as a whole, it's not bad, guys. And the fact that Gates knocked her scenes out of the park, it did put that step forward in that relationship with Picard, which is probably why we got what happened in All Good Things.
Yeah.
This is what pushed them into that direction. And even after the episode, if you look at Picard and Beverly, how they interacted with each other, it was almost kind of flirty kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I enjoy this episode, especially because
I do.
Yeah. It's so rough when people put it down or make fun of it. Like I said, 30 years of the party, totally fine.
This is how we got Jack Crusher, man.
This is exactly. Thank you, Ronan. But I think, as you can see under my name, it says he wasn't a ghost. I fight that so hard because she even said when they were in the cemetery while he was, in front of Vader and McFly's tombstone, Vader apparently was very young when he died. The thing is, though, is that when they were arguing in the cemetery, she even said, there's no such things as ghosts. She says, you are some anaphasic life form, and anaphasic energy is completely unstable. You need an organic host in order to maintain molecular cohesion. Otherwise, you'll die. Yeah. She says it right there. And I memorized her word for word because I always fight people and I was like, she said this at the very end. He's not a ghost. The candle? Okay.
And neither was Lasher.
Oh, so what was Lasher? I'm going to ask that since I didn't.
So Lasher was basically a fairy, and he needed a way to come back into the corporeal realm. So he basically had like a breeding program going on with the Mayfair women for centuries to breed the perfect. He's something called a Taltos. And he had to breed a Taltos so he could come back into reality. It gets really sick and twisted. So I'll keep that quiet for your audience sake. But God, I shouldn't have read this as a teenager. It might have warped my mind. But he smelled like warm cookies. Like everything about him was to attract, you know. He smelled really soft, like baby skin, and smelled like sugar cookies. And yeah, but he was
something that would just draw them to him.
Yeah.
Basically.
And he was this creature called a Taltos, and they're very, very tall, beautiful things, but they breed like bunnies, and they would have just taken over humanity. So they were all like killed off. And for centuries, it's another thing. They had this necklace, this emerald green necklace, that he was kind of attached to in a way, I guess.
Like
but so he attached himself to this family of witches for centuries and interbred them for centuries to basically build himself a body and a mate. So there's that.
There's that. Well, let's took that little detail out of the episode. The one thing, and of course, I'm glad you mentioned Jack Crusher. This is why I'm wearing my PB&J shirt. So Picard, Beverly, and Jack. Because awesome. Yes, I think this is my PB&J. I think it did push them in the right direction, even though the scene and like all good things when they had that talk in the ready room and they had their kiss and stuff, that was all erased because he changed the timeline, and so that none of that happened. But it did push them in the direction of having a relationship, and that's how we get Jack later on. So this episode is important when it comes to the Crusher, love story. And I love that he was there, and I love that it was, because he was hurt, she was able to fight off Ronan. Like, she was an addict, she was being abused and manipulated, and she fought Ronan. The whole ending with the cemetery, that was her fighting back. She was not going to take it, and she was also not going to take it for her family, even though she was, from what we know, she was the last woman of the Howard line. Yeah, but there was still Wesley. I don't think it had to be women. Like, he was still a Howard in a sense, and so she had to protect her son. So I think in a lot of cases, this just built Beverly's character to be very strong, independent, powerful, and relatable. And she fought this addiction. And like I said, I'm an SA survivor. And so to see that was very important for me to be like, yeah, survived. Like, that's what we do. We survive.
Well, and let's point out the big green elephant in the room, that it's not necessarily just about drug addiction. It's about how you can become addicted to love. You can become addicted in a very real sense to that sensation of falling in love, that rush. People do become addicted to sex. That is a very real thing. And how a lot of people, men and women, can use that against people to get what they want out of them, whether it's a place to stay or getting them to pay all their bills for them, buy them things, buy them drugs for their addictions.
Right.
It does happen, and it happens mostly to women, especially the biggest group that this happens to are who? Single moms.
Yeah.
Single moms.
So exactly.
It's a great episode to shine a light on that. And it can also make someone who's been in that situation feel like, because a lot of women who do fall in those situations, and I'm speaking from personal experience here. I don't know if you guys have caught on yet, but
Really? I didn't know. Okay.
but you blame yourself a lot because a lot of people on the outside will blame you. Well, you chose him. Listen, I didn't choose an abusive drug addict.
Yeah.
I chose a charming person who said and did all the right things. They said everything they needed to get that little squirrel to come to him. And once they had him,
Yeah.
that's when they start slow. They reel you in and then they start milking you. That's how it works. And you have all of these people that stand on the outside who will judge you and blame you. And so you start judging and blaming yourself and hating yourself for it. And then you watch something like this, and possibly a voice in the back of your head won't be so negative and will say, see, it could happen to anyone.
Exactly.
It could happen to anyone.
And I think that's why it was important to it to happen to Beverly, because it could happen to anyone. Now, in the script, though, I originally it said that because she's fighting off Ronan, Geordi and Data are in danger. So it wasn't even just trying to save Picard. She's also trying to save her crewmates, who is her family, right? And it says, after she destroys Ronan, it says Beverly quickly moves to Geordi, who nods that he's all right. Beverly goes to Data, goes behind him, and reactivates him. Data stands up. He's all right. Off to Beverly's relief. That was how they ended it. But instead, they decided to change it, and it went to this. I loved that they changed it to that because that was Beverly just breaking down all of it. Guilt, shame. She was tired. She was just like, oh my gosh, people I loved almost died because of my decision. And it just wrecked her and she collapses. And as much as I know Beverly is this strong, independent, capable woman, but like we've been saying, she is human and she fell for it and she felt guilty. And it was that moment where she just released all of that emotion. And I wish they kind of just ended it that way, because how they did end it, which really pisses me off, is when she's in 10 forward with Troy and she's all like, she's all like, you know, despite of what he may have done, my grandmother was really happy. And I was like, I hate that, because then it was like, okay, so abuse and manipulation is okay. Awesome. As long as your grandma was happy, it's totally fine that she was played this entire time and possibly got killed early because of it. And I will die on that hill. But
I'm just saying grandma was getting hers well into her hundreds. Woman died with a smile on her face.
I was so pissed. I was like, no. Now, can we just go? Actually, I'm going to say this real fast. Can you imagine how traumatizing it was for Beverly to see her grandma just pop out of
I know. He's using her grandma like a meat puppet.
Good Lord. Like, Ronan is a a-hole. Like, straight up, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like, that's really going to keep her, Ronan. Yeah, let's just string her grandma's body around and make her. No, that. And of course, she's like screaming like Nana's dead, leave her alone. And, you know, people kind of make fun of how she said it, but it's like she was traumatized.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord. She just zapped Geordi and Data. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like this woman's going through a lot in like just 10 minutes.
You're not exactly going to be super articulate when you dead grandma pops up out of the ground. 5 feet from you.
I'm surprised words even came out, right? Like she even thought of something to say.
Like, good thing she was wearing a nightgown and not a pair of pants, because I guarantee you she pee-peed all over that grass.
Well, if in the scene though, when Ronan shows up and he's like, Beverly, Gates actually doesn't even hit the steps. She like leaps off the edge. Like she doesn't even step down. She just like whoop, like just jumps off and turns. Like she like got into it because it was like, what the is going on here? Like, what the hell? I I'm glad that they, like I said, I'm glad that they did this whole breaking down her being emotional and just completely dramatic over this. Really hate though that they just kind of glossed over that abuse is okay. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Or addiction.
Yeah.
So now I did ask my audience about how they rate this episode. And the tricorder rating, I got 59 votes. 5 haunted candles was 59% of you. So you guys love this episode for probably different reasons, but I'll take it. 4 camellias was 17%. 3 anaphasic energies was 14%. And 1 or 2 tombstones was 10%. So you guys were just not feeling it. And that's okay.
I love the episode. I do. I always have. And it probably has a lot to do with I'm a huge Anne Rice fan, but still I love the episode. It was two of my worlds collided in one episode, so I was here for it.
It's great. This is why I love Prodigy season 2. I have my Doctor Who and my Star Trek, and the worlds collided, and I was having the time of my life for 20 episodes.
But but poor Wesley, like he was supposed to go be this all-knowing, seeing being off with the Traveler, and he's like living in a junkyard, basically, in between things. It's like,
well,
come on.
I think that because actually when the crew arrives in Prodigy, the kids, you hear him talking to the Traveler, and they're explaining to them, it can't be saved, we have to go. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So that was like one of their planets that they stay off on, which is why I thought it was Tau Alpha C. Could be wrong, don't quote me, but he was there because he was trying to do his little jigsaw puzzle of trying to get everyone together, right? So like trying to get the kids and do all of his stuff. But I love Prodigy now.
I have my issues with Prodigy, and issues 1 through 5 are all the name Jankum, because Jankum is Jankum is huffing poo-poo fumes. That's what Jankum is. And I learned this from Spike TV's 1,000 Ways to Die. There was this rocker that was on a tour bus, and he couldn't get heroin and all this other stuff, but he learned that you could poop in a bucket, put a lid on it, let it ferment, and then huff it, and you get high off of it. That's called Jankum. And not only did they name this kid on this show Jankum, they also made sure he spoke in the third person, so he says it every 5 seconds. And so the whole time I'm watching it, I'm just like, poop fumes. Poop fumes. Poop fumes.
And they mentioned those poop fumes, and when they, he went to the bathroom, and they were like going to be stuck in that ship for like 61 days, and like, we got to get out of here, guys.
You're telling me not one person in the writer's room knew how to use Google. I call Jankum.
Now, oh my gosh, now I'm not going to say it the same again. But...
How am I the only person on planet Earth who has caught on to that? I can't be the only person that's caught on to it.
I'm not that intelligent, Dani.
No, I'm not. Shut up. You are. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about I can't be the only person. There has to be someone else out there.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. But the fact that they brought back Wesley and even Beverly for 2 episodes, I will love them forever. Because so they can name Jankums all they want.
No, it's gross. It's gross. And this guy died from it. Okay, and that 1,000 Ways to the episode is called 1,000 Ways to Die for a reason. That was one of the ways to die.
It's true, though. It is true. There was actually a Bones episode where a guy got killed and was put in a porta potty upside down, and he half dissolved.
Nasty. Just nasty.
No, we're totally ruining it. Everyone watch Prodigy. It's great. Don't listen to us.
What I want is for Wesley and Beverly and Jack. Like, Wesley needs to meet his brother. And Beverly needs to see her kid again.
that was the heartbreaking thing about Picard, was that she was like, I lost my son. And we're like, oh, that hurts.
Mhm.
That's in the feels right there. That's why she was trying so hard to protect Jack.
Yeah.
Redhead alert. So, of course, going to Star Trek Prodigy. What a segue, guys. I'm going to react and review episode 1. Well, I'm going to do all 20, but we're going to do 5 at a time. And this next one is going to be with Jay, who he did my Tuvix episode. Had to think about that for a second. And yeah, we're going to do a react and review of Star Trek Prodigy, episode 1 through 5, next Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Super excited. I do want to mention that the Easter eggs in this season was fantastic, because it wasn't just TNG, it was Voyager, it was TOS, it was Picard, it was Enterprise. There was so much going on that I absolutely adored it, and I think they did it in such an amazing way that's why I think it is a great season, because it caused Star Trek, just it intertwined all of Star Trek, 60 years of it in this season, and so I absolutely adore it. And of course, if you guys ever want to hear just the audio versions of me, you can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, any app that you like to hear that I did not name. You could buy some Crusher Combo merch at TeePublic. You can buy me a coffee, and you can get all this information at crusherconvo.com. And of course, you can also like and subscribe to this video, because that boosts my my ratings here for people can find me. But yeah, this was fun. Dani.
It was fun. It was very fun.
I love it. So what's going on in your nerd world? What do you have happening over at Comics and Everything?
Well, I go live on Tuesdays. I'm not sure what this Tuesday's topic is about yet. But I'll figure it out. I do have a video I'm going to be recording tomorrow. It's 5 of the most underrated characters in Star Wars. And I reached out to the old nerdling army on all platforms. I got some really awesome suggestions, and I took them all and shuffled them, and I just picked my favorites. I'm not going to lie. I didn't do anything random. I was just like, oh, I like that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one.
There you go.
So I've compiled a list. I wrote it all up today. And I'll be recording that tomorrow. So that will be coming out next week. That's pretty much all I got going on.
Are you going to do a Star Trek top 5?
Duh.
Just making sure.
Well,
I
was really surprised that you were the ones like, we need a Star Wars list. I'm like, really? Okay. So because that suggestion came first, I went with Star Wars first, but I'm going to do Star Trek after that. It may be a little bit by the time I get to the Star Trek one, though, because depending on how quickly I can get all this done, because I am going to be out for a while as of the 22nd. So,
right. Yeah. No rush. We'll be waiting. So it's all good. I mentioned Star Wars just because, just like Star Trek, there is a lot of characters that have shown up, but I feel like there is a lot in Star Wars that just don't get as utilized.
Right.
Well.
They're really famous for their background characters, and then the background characters kind of taking on a life of their own.
Its own, exactly.
And that's kind of what I went for on this list, was the background characters that take on a life of their own. But ones that would make really cool characters in the forefront. So in Star Trek, if they have a background character that somehow takes on a life of its own, one, they totally intended for that, because they were going to put them to the forefront here before too long. So it's kind of
like Ashley Judd.
Yeah, Ashley Judd and
Reg. Robin. Yes, Reginald Barkley. Got Lieutenant J just popping in every once in a while. Yeah, I got some characters. I'll help you out there. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching and listening over here on YouTube and over at Dani's Twitter because I refuse to pay and I'm not going to do it. So I appreciate you putting it on there. But yeah, next week, Friday, me and Jay, Prodigy, hit us up, join us live. We're going to have lots of fun. But anyways, live long and prosper. Have fun, guys. Bye.
Crusher out.